What is up, 2K crew? I am your host, Turbo, as always, and across the bar from me is Mr. 2K's Kaler, and we have one hell of a show lined up for you folks today. We've got a bunch of NFL news, and I'm sorry, we are going to mention Zion because, fuck, we have to. The kid is a beast. Let's just lay that out there. So we've got some NCAA Conference Tourney talk, some football talk, so grab a drink, sit back, and you have found the Turbo and 2K's podcast. All right, Mr. 2K's. The first big thing is I finally learned how to use this this fucking mixing board. So let's let all of our listeners just hear what it's like to have you in the room with me.
Yeah, well, I think people can finally hear me now. It doesn't sound like I'm out in the kitchen anymore, yelling from the refrigerator. But yeah.
So hopefully we got a lot of the audio issues taken care of. I'll be the first to admit this is pretty much a flying by the seat of our fucking pants deal. So it's a trial and error, and like I said too, hopefully this does fix it and we can just move forward with it. With that being said, holy shit, the NFL offseason just kicked off. And one of the things that came to mind first was this was it was very reminiscent of the NBA offseason.
Oh, yeah. And we haven't even had a draft yet.
No.
This is just free agency right now.
Yeah, and I'm wondering with these contracts, do the GMs have any money left for the draft picks? Bro, you have 7 of them at least.
Yeah.
Some teams have more, but let's face it, 7. And holy shit, the numbers are just mind-blowing. Mind-blowing. Some of the trades are ridiculous. So when folks are saying that the NFL is the pretty much America's sport now, which I hate to agree with, but
it's the truth.
I think with the advent of fantasy football and with now I'm pretty sure the NFL Network was the first one to split off and kind of do their own thing. With the combination of those two, we're dealing with a powerhouse that is 365 days a year. And this is kind of the result. Mm-hmm. And like you and I've talked about in previous shows, is that you're a Dallas fan, I'm a Bears fan, and I do apologize if you hear a little clicky clack in the background. That is my puppy Morgan. So we have she's been here the whole time, but she's just walking around on the hardwood over there. So we'll welcome her to the show as well. But I'm more of a fantasy football type of fan. So when I look at a lot of these moves, it's like, all right, how does it benefit the team and how would they benefit my team?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh, 100% agree.
So with that being said, there's a lot of different faces and new places. So, and you and I kind of took similar approaches to this, and where I looked at, I just picked the top 5. Mm-hmm. And let's pretty much, to me, the top 4 big names, and then my kind of sneaky under the radar one. And so I'm going to list off mine, and then let's dive into yours, and then we'll kind of wrap the conversation up, and then just do some open flow, if you will. And of course, I think everyone has to lead this off with Antonio Brown to the Raiders. Mm-hmm. This soap opera saga, if you will, is finally over. Well, where he's going is over.
Yeah.
When you and I talked last week, I'm still not convinced that, yes, there will be a shirtless fight either between him and Derek Carr or him and John Gruden, one or the other. Or, maybe it's all three, free for all. Who cares? And for what the Raiders had to give up for this. It's just mind-blowing. And on top of that, the Steelers are still paying most of that signing bonus. So, Raider fan, granted, you got rid of Khalil Mack. You got rid of Amari Cooper. You got a whole boatload of draft picks for him. I think Dallas would have been the only team to give up a first-round pick for Amari Cooper. And now you get a third and fifth round pick. You have to give up a third and fifth round pick to bring in arguably the best receiver in football. So I have a very good feeling that for everyone that was trashing the Raiders' moves last year, I think you kind of have to step back and kind of give them a little low golf clap. You know, there is a process there. They're moving in the right direction. And on top of that, you have to remember, too, they're going to be in Vegas. Mm-hmm. So, and the next one, to me, the one that kind of came out of nowhere, I mean, there were rumors, whispers that the Giants were going to trade OBJ. Now he's a Brown. And if you're a Browns fan, you got to be fucking stoked. Stoked. Granted, you had to give up a first and third round pick and Jabril Peppers. So essentially, you gave up 2 first round picks and a third round pick. But then again, OBJ is younger than Antonio Brown, but the production you're going to get, I think, way outweighs what you gave up. With that young nucleus there, they're going to be that, and especially in that division, and that's something we're going to get into here in a little bit. That division's wide open. Mm-hmm. And I'm gonna skip my next one because we're gonna wrap it up with that, and then we'll Nick Foles to Jacksonville. He's just a big name. I don't think he's a fix-it-all. I don't think to me it's a Band-Aid. But it's a 4-year, $88 million fucking Band-Aid. Is he an upgrade over Bortles? Yeah, I think so. But I don't know. I'm not sold on that either. And of course the big signing is Mr. Le'Veon Bell to the Jets. And if you're not up to par, it's 4 years, $52.5 million. And there's a lot of controversy and a lot of not controversy isn't really the right word, a lot of discussion. Did he do the right thing sitting out? Blah, 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 as far as money goes. So we're going to table that talk for a little bit. And then my sneaky one is Tyrann Mathieu to the Chiefs. 3 years, $42 million. And that was pretty much their Achilles heel last year, was their secondary. So all of those, I mean, there's some good, some I'm not going to call them bad. But those were my big takeaways. And so, Kyle, let's jump into yours.
My first one that just jumps off the radar to me is Odell. Odell going to the Browns. For all the Browns fans out there, like, I think there's finally something to be excited for there. I mean, you're ready. If I'm a Browns fan, I'm excited going into the season. I think, Vegas odds to make the Super Bowl, they're like the fourth highest team now, or third highest team now to win the Super Bowl this year. So when's the last time a Browns fan's been able to say that?
And it's fantastic to go for a franchise like that that's known to just do boneheaded moves over and over and over and over again.
And they went through. I couldn't even sit here and name off all the quarterbacks that they went through, but I think it's safe to say they've got their guy at quarterback now. So now
I would tend to agree with you.
Yes, and I mean they killed it in the draft last year. You got your quarterback of the future and you got your running back of the future in the same draft.
Yeah.
And then last season, they made an off-season pickup to get Landry. Mm-hmm. And now this season they go out and they pick up Odell. You know, the history with Odell and Landry, played in college together.
Roommates.
Yes. So that it's hard to I'm having a hard I'm looking here trying to figure out if there's a 1-2 wide receiver combination that's better than that. And maybe there is, but that's one of the best 1-2 punches that there is in the league. I mean,
as far as speed goes,
yes,
you'd be hard pressed.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just this is something we didn't even. Now we're going into the off the dome stuff.
Yeah.
But the one that kind of jumps out to me is Julio Jones and Calvin Ridley.
Yeah.
Ridley's still young. We don't know yet. But as far as
but with these two, you're talking about two proven wide receivers. Yes. They've proven themselves in the league. And I don't think we've seen the best of Odell yet. We got to remember that Odell's entire career has been with Eli Manning, and I mean, Eli Manning, Baker Mayfield,
two very different athletes.
Yes. I mean, I'm definitely taking Baker Mayfield in that situation. So
right now, yes.
I don't think we've seen the top of Odell. And just to keep going on about the Browns, not only did they get their running back and their quarterback last season, but they also got a lockdown cornerback that is a game changer. I mean, he proved it last year. He's already one of the better corners in the league, and it's only going to get better from there. The year before in the draft, they pick up Garrett.
Yep.
It's good. If I'm a Cleveland fan, I'm saying we're in good shape. We're in good shape for not. I'm not saying we're going to go win the Super Bowl this year, but I'm looking in this 3 or 4 year span, we're going to be relevant. Yeah. And so I'm excited there, and that to me is why that's the biggest. That's the pickup this season that just jumps off the map at me is, they're legit now.
And how unexpected it was.
Yes.
And for a team that going into last season was like, all right, if we could just win one game, to now going, fuck, we could win this division. Pittsburgh.
Yeah. It's an open division. I mean, just this season, this offseason, the Ravens have kind of
had a fucking yard sale.
Yeah, I mean they've let basically a lot of their whole defense, who was the number one defense last year, they let a lot of them go, and now not that they've made some offseason moves so far, but it's all question marks. And you're looking at Pittsburgh. I mean, they lost their two best players on their roster are gone now. So then do I still think Pittsburgh's going to be relevant? Yes, but. You got rid of your top two picks. Where Cleveland's at right now, and what they've done in these drafts, and
then Cincinnati's Cincinnati.
Yeah, and Cincinnati's and what Cincinnati bringing in the coach that what's dipshit's name that Cleveland had as their coach last year?
Is that Hugh Jackman?
Yeah. Jackson. Yeah. So Cincinnati's their best offseason pickup is. We got the guy that Cleveland, threw out the door. So
went 3-32.
Yeah. So you can basically count on Cincinnati, maybe getting that first pick next year.
Yeah,
that's what they're looking at. So that to me is the best pickup. Probably the number two signing that gets me, and I think a lot of our viewers and people that listen to us are Lions fans. Yes. I think Detroit going out. And picking up Trey Flowers, they got that pass rush. They moved on from the Anza days that just didn't work out, injuries and all that. They needed to get that true pass rusher, and more importantly, Matt Patricia needed to get his guy. He was comfortable. He worked with Flowers in his New England days. He needed to get his guy in his system to be that leader.
Yep.
And I think if I'm a Lions fan, I'm happy with that. I think. Maybe you can sit back and say, we might have overpaid a little bit on that, but I think more importantly, Patricia needed to get his guy to buy into his system and make all these other young players, buy into that also.
Yeah, it's pretty much that, one person can stand in front of a room and try to lead, but when there's two, it's a lot more powerful, and especially considering that. He's been in Patricia's system for a while.
Yeah.
So, and I mean, granted, there's probably some things that are tweaked because you don't want to take the same thing and move it right over here because you have different players with different attributes, different specialties. So there's always a little bit of a tweak here and there, but yeah, and that's not the only pickup that the Lions made that are. I mean, it seems to be
they've been very active.
Yeah, but the influx of old Patriot players are. I mean, that was just probably the most relevant and the best one. Amendola signing there. Yeah,
I mean, it makes me think a little bit. It's a little bit intriguing to me. You have You have Jones and you have Galladay. So you have your two outside receivers. You were kind of lacking that slot receiver, especially after Golden Tate going. So they were kind of lacking that, in middle of the field receiver. They haven't had a tight end, and they addressed that this offseason also with Jesse James. I mean, his numbers don't jump off the map at you, but I think he's solid.
But he was a number 2.
Yes, yeah.
And I think a lot of when we're used to the Gronk numbers, pretty much we're in this day and age we've been spoiled to where the tight end is basically a gigantic slot receiver.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that all kind of Tony Gonzalez is probably the best one ever. Antonio Gates, these are all players within our generation.
Yeah.
And I think the whole Peyton Manning offense kind of led to this, where the tight end doesn't line up and block as much as they used to, where Jesse James is that line blocker. Can he go catch you balls? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And he's intriguing to me just to see what he ends up being, because I think he's in his career he's always been overshadowed. You've played with Antonio Brown, you played with Le'Veon Bell, you played with Juju Smith-Schuster. So you're overshadowed there. There's been games though where I've watched Pittsburgh and Jesse James has scored 2 touchdowns. He might only have 3 catches, but 2 of them were touchdowns.
Yeah, and he's probably on my fantasy bench.
Yeah. But so I'm not a Lions fan at all, but I'm that pick that sign now. I think they might have overpaid a little bit for him, but I think you can say that about every team this offseason so far. Everybody's overpaying, and that's the way free agency goes. But he's intriguing to me because I'm not sure that we've seen. Maybe he's more capable of putting up some numbers that we haven't seen yet, just because of the haul that he's played with in his career in Pittsburgh.
And one of the conversations you and I had before we started recording was there was the mock drafts. Everyone was saying that the Lions were going to draft a tight end, and I'm pretty sure if that actually did come to fruition, a lot of Lions fans would either just end it all or just either end it all or literally look back at it and go, is this another receiver? Is this what we're doing again? For fuck's sake, can we get someone to help protect our quarterback? Maybe even there's plenty of other ways you could go with a first-round pick rather than a tight end. Off the top of my head, I don't think I can remember a tight end that went first round. There could be a lot of them, but tight ends are one of the. Gronk was like a 4th or 5th round pick out of Arizona. So there's is that a value pick? Is that a value pick? And in my mind, no. So in essence, did they ultimately overpay? Probably, but on the other hand, if you look at how much if they did draft one the first round, how much would that cost? So you kind of have to weigh those two. And as a Lions, I'm not going to say I'm a Lions fan, but if you are a Lions fan, I think the offseason so far it hasn't jumped off the page at you, but you should not be disappointed, and you should be encouraged all the way around.
Absolutely, I agree. I'm not a Lions fan at all. They're Michigan's team, so I obviously follow them. And if they're not playing the Cowboys, I'm probably rooting for them.
Well, it doesn't help that I'm going to go out on a limb and say probably 95% of our friends are Lions fans.
Yeah.
You and I are two of the... granted, there are some Bears fans. Mm-hmm. Sriracha family, holler at you. There's a lot of Bears fans around, which is, we're pretty much halfway between Chicago and Detroit. Yep. So you're either one or the other.
Yeah. But if I'm looking at it right now, that's 4 pretty legit pickups prior to the draft. We're not so sure what's going to happen at the draft yet.
But
I think they're going to address defense in the first round. And I think that's obvious. That's what they need to do.
And it's a defensive heavy draft.
Yes. So
heavy draft. And my thing is this: looking at that roster, looking at the moves that they made, you're addressing problems and weaknesses with proven players.
Yes.
Whereas going into the draft, you have, your scouting department, the combine, everything tells you that, yes, this dude is fucking legit.
Mm-hmm.
But they're unproven.
Mm-hmm.
And, and then, so to me, I would much rather overpay a tad for someone that's in their prime than, fingers crossed, spend a first round pick on them. However, it's the football draft, I think, produces a lot less like big busts.
Oh yeah.
So that, and there's 7 rounds as opposed to basketball is 2.
Mm-hmm.
And then baseball, I mean, hell, that's a fucking crapshoot.
That draft never ends.
So what else do you have on your list over there?
So after the Detroit pickup, I think I got to go to the Jets and Le'Veon Bell. I mean, Le'Veon's probably the biggest, free agent name that's out there that just jumps at you.
He's the most intriguing, that's for sure.
Yeah. Now him going to the Jets, I think if you would have asked me 2 weeks ago, where do you think Le'Veon's going to go? I probably would have said the Jets because I think they were kind of the front runner the whole way.
I would have either said the Jets or the Colts.
Yeah.
Both of which have a lot of cap room.
Mm-hmm.
And
I wish he would have went to the Colts. Like I'm thinking to myself now, like with the Jets, I just don't like the Jets. I'm sorry. For any Jets listeners out there, I just don't like them. I don't like you guys. I'm not a fan. And to watch one of the biggest playmakers that I've been able to watch in the NFL in the last 5-6 years that he's been in the league, I'm like, what are they gonna do to ruin it? Like, because when you watch the Jets play, they have like 3 different running backs out there, a bunch of no-namers that you never even heard of.
There might be a dude from the stands.
Yeah, and I'm talking posts. All you Jets fans that are jumping at me now saying like, oh, what about Curtis Martin? Okay, I'm talking after Curtis Martin because that was back when, Moby Dick was a minnow. I don't care anymore about Curtis Martin days. I'm talking about now, and I've seen, every time I tune in to watch them, they have like 3 different backs back there. And you still have Sam Darnold as your quarterback, who I'm sorry, but I think you guys bust on that one last year. I think he's going to be a bust.
And what's their receiving core like? I'm not sure.
No, I don't even know. I mean, do they still have... is Jeremy Curley still lining up out there? Because I swear that guy's been a wide receiver for 25 years in the league. Like, he's the only receiver I've ever seen there. The Jets are just, no, I just can't. They still have New England Patriots in their division, so
yeah.
I put it down as my third on the list just because it's Le'Veon Bell. But damn, I wish he would have went somewhere where.
More legit.
Yeah. If he would have chose Indianapolis, like, I think the Colts are right there at being a legitimate contender, to where I think the Jets are a ways away.
Yeah. And when we opened the show and I gave you my top 5, one of the things I wanted to table with Le'Veon Bell is I kind of have a different outlook on this. And 2K crew, this is why you listen, is because we do have some kind of off the wall type shit going on. I mean, who else would have, conspiracy theory say that Zion's gonna end up with the Lakers? I mean, and when it happens, you can be like, "Damn, Turb, you were right. You were fucking right." Now, my big thing is this with Le'Veon, and I don't think anyone even has thought about this. Is normally when a player is gone for a large amount of time, it's because of injury. You can rehab an injury. A lot of times, if it's an ACL or something like that, a lot of times once you get your legs back underneath you, the actual ligament and knee is stronger. You're faster. Look at Adrian Peterson. He had his knee basically exploded, and they had to super glue it together. And dude, still, I just saw today he signed another 2-year deal with the Redskins. So, but my outlook is a little bit different, it being that you sat out a year. Granted, his reason for sitting out, take the wear and tear off his body. He said that even if he did play under the franchise tag, how valuable would he have been? Would he got this same year's same amount of guaranteed money with 400 more carries under his belt? That's the gamble he took. And, we can sit here for the whole hour talking about, was it a good idea to do that? What, financially, health-wise, but that's not why we're here. My big thing is, okay, and you see this a lot with even players that go out for like 3 or 4 games. And someone that's as dynamic of an athlete as Le'Veon Bell, what about those hamstrings? And of course, this is us talking here from Barstools because we're absolutely pro athletes, but I know, just in my limited athletic career, that anytime you take off, even, between, when baseball season's done and then when it starts over again, like when we were in high school, you start out, man, your arm feels great, but you were lazy and didn't condition all off season, or you were conditioning other parts, like you were playing basketball, football, you weren't getting the normal wear and tear on those muscles, and you tweak something. And when you've been off for that long, it takes longer for that to get back to normal because it's not used to that workload. So I would hope, in my hopes of hope, because Le'Veon's been a professional athlete for quite a while. So has he taken the right opportunities to make sure his body's in tip-top shape? Granted, you cannot get live football action unless you're in pads, and he does a lot of dynamic cutting, jumping, running. So that's going to be, and I'm sure the Jets aren't going to be dumb with him either. They're not going to throw him out there week 1 and be like, "Yo, bro, touch ball 32 times." They're going to ease him back. I would hope. However, you never know with that franchise, like you were talking about earlier. So that's kind of my take on it. And if he is healthy and I still, in my heart of hearts, do not believe he will be the same player he was.
No.
You cannot take that amount of time off and just to expect to pick up where you left off.
He's going into a system where his quarterback is not as good as Ben Roethlisberger.
Yep.
He doesn't have Antonio Brown. He doesn't have Juju Smith-Schuster. He doesn't have their line either. No. And when you have all those skill position players that want to field with you that are pulling all that attention, like if you're going to play against the Jets right now and they have Le'Veon Bell, all the attention's on Le'Veon Bell.
Load the box.
You couldn't do that when he was with Pittsburgh. You could not just go into a game and be like, "We're going to stop Le'Veon."
I mean, you could, but you're going to get beat elsewhere.
But then you're going to get beat all over the field because Roethlisberger's going to pick you apart. Antonio Brown's probably going to score 3 touchdowns and catch the ball 15 times because that was just the crazy numbers that he threw out every single week. And then you had Juju Smith-Schuster that nobody ever talks about, who's going to be just fine alone in Pittsburgh. He's still going to be a top receiver because that's how good he is. I
think numbers-wise, when he's by himself, he might have, well, if we're talking apples to apples right now and you put a gun to my head and was like, "Turb, what do you think? Who will have more receptions and yards, Antonio Brown or Smith-Schuster this year?" Smith-Schuster all the way.
Yeah.
He's
the safe bet. He's the safe bet.
Yes.
And that leads into my fourth signing that it's because I kind of in the same boat as you. I picked 5. My number 4 would be Antonio Brown. The trade there with the Raiders. I don't think he's going to put up those Pittsburgh numbers that we're used to seeing. Honestly.
However, he's going from a system that has, like we just talked about, multiple options.
Yes.
and he's going to be the main guy.
Yeah.
So this is the situation he wanted. He didn't want to share the spotlight. All eyes are on you, bro, and you had better man the fuck up.
Oh, yeah.
Because if you don't, everyone's going to just be like, well,
yeah,
you were just a product of the Pittsburgh system.
And like, I think that when this next season's in the books and we're talking about it, I do think that for all you fantasy listeners out there, I think Antonio Brown's still a number one wide receiver on your fantasy team. I think he's going to put up those numbers. I think he's going to be an all-pro. You'll see him at the Pro Bowl this year.
Well, and just like
because
I said,
that's the type of talent he is.
Well, in that offense, he has to.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't shock me if he's, targeted 15 times a game at least.
But like you were talking about the that being a big pickup for the Raiders, and what still bothers me is I see that's great pickup for him, but why did you trade away your best defensive player, arguably the best pass rusher in the NFL, and Khalil Mack to the Bears for basically you're getting a first round draft pick, great, but I doubt you're going to hit somebody in the draft that's Khalil Mack. Or that it will ever be Khalil Mack. No. Maybe you will, but I doubt it.
No.
So, if I'm a Raiders fan, I'm frustrated because I just witnessed our best player getting traded away for draft picks.
Top two players, yeah.
And then the next season, you go out and you make this whopping trade for Antonio Brown. Like, great. I love Antonio Brown. I want him on my team, absolutely. But I also want Khalil Mack. And then when it comes down to it, I would rather have Khalil Mack because I think it's easier to come by a top wide receiver than what it is to come by a Khalil Mack, who can just change the game in the way that he can get to the quarterback and disrupt the quarterback and everything he does there. So that's where I'm frustrated, and that goes into I'm frustrated in watching. If I was a Giants fan, you're trading away Odell now. Why did you sign him last year? Why did you sign him to that major contract and you eat all that money for that 1 year and you eat that signing bonus?
Yep.
And then you just give him away to Cleveland for basically.
Well, I wouldn't say they gave him away, but
no, I mean you got a first round pick and you got a third round pick, but Odell?
Yeah.
There's not a wide receiver in this draft that's going to be Odell.
And that the whole Odell Mac conversation kind of goes back to what I said. Would you rather have that lottery ticket as for a draft pick where you could get $0 or you could get $100 million, or would you rather take the safe bet and have the proven commodity? And as far as with taking Mac out of this, the Antonio Brown deal was a no-brainer for the Raiders.
Oh, absolutely.
You had to give up a third and fifth round pick, and the Steelers are paying the vast majority of that signing bonus. That's a no-brainer. I guarantee if you went to any other, taking Antonio Brown's the off-field stuff out of it, if you'd have went to any other NFL team, that would have been like, all right, cool. Where do we sign? Let's do this. But it's the off-field stuff that I think kind of drove that price tag, and the Raiders are, historically have always been where kind of the lightning rods for attention have always gone. And unfortunately, aside from Randy Moss and Jerry Rice, Jerry Rice wasn't the lightning rod, but a lot of them have went to the Raiders and their careers just died.
Yeah.
But yeah, that, do you have anything else written down over there?
Going into my fifth one, you chose kind of your sleeper pickup that we didn't hear a lot about, and you had mentioned Tyrann Mathieu, and I agreed with that. So I kind of went with another safety that kind of sneaky under the radar. I think they got him for a pretty reasonable price, and that's the Rams going out and picking up Eric Weddle. I think that give them a veteran.
And that was one of their Achilles heels as well.
Yes, yeah.
Their front seven was great. Yep. Their secondary was hot garbage.
Yeah, and I think picking up an Eric Weddle for 2 years, $10.5 million.
Veteran leadership.
Yes, exactly. I think that, maybe not being talked about right now, but I think when the season starts and you get 6 or 7 games in the season, if he's healthy, he's a difference maker back there. That's just the type of player he is.
Yeah, that could pan out to be a very, very sneaky, under the radar, most bang for your buck. Mm-hmm. You're right, and I almost put that one down there, but yeah, that kind of piggybacking off that, the fucking garage sale.
Yeah.
That the Ravens have. I mean, you look at that team from last year, every face of that team is gone.
Mm-hmm.
Terrell Suggs is gone. Eric Weddle's gone. Of course, Joe Flacco's gone. You talk about bringing in a whole new regime, player-wise, not coach-wise, not coordinator-wise or anything like that. That's going to be, I mean, that's one of those let's wait and see. Mm-hmm. This could be a dumpster fire real quick, mm-hmm. or it could be something that is breathing new life into a very stagnant organization, which it might be one of those things where it had to happen.
Mm-hmm. And with the Ravens, they had to get more. They had to get something to help the offense. They had to add some excitement to the offense because they had nothing. I mean, they had. Yes. They finally did away with Flacco, and it was it was time. And they go this Bridgewater screen or not Bridgewater but Jackson, and
they do look very similar now that you say
yeah they look similar. But so they go this Jackson's, and I think it's going to work out. Probably not. You don't, those mobile quarterbacks, you see them, they work out for a year or two, and then they get a few hits to the noggin, and it doesn't pan out. But they needed, they picked up Mark Ingram, who I think that gives them a solid number one back now, and I think that they've been looking for that for quite some time now.
Ever since Ray Rice.
Yes, and they still need. To me, they need to address receivers. Mm-hmm. They have like 4 tight ends on their roster, and all of them are pretty legit. But not one that jumps off at you. But they're all pretty legit. But their every time you watch the Ravens football, you're like, man, that defense is legit.
Well, they've always had the 1-2 punch.
Yeah,
they've had the Ed Reed,
mm-hmm.
Ray Lewis, and then once then they added T Sizzle. Mm-hmm. And then Eric Weddle came along, and wasn't it C.J. Mosley?
Yes, and he, he's a Jet now.
Yeah, he's gone too.
And they let Weddle walk, but they replaced him with Earl Thomas, who, if healthy, you're talking about one of the best safeties in the game.
Yeah, that's one of the key parts there is how is he going to come back from that broken leg? Yep. But you're right. At their point in their careers, I can see why you made that move.
Mm-hmm.
And if you do make that move to let Weddle walk, you better replace him with somebody.
Yeah. And they did that. Yeah. They did that. Yeah. I mean, arguably, I think he's going to come back and be just fine.
And I arguably, they probably went out and got the best replacement they could.
Absolutely.
So, I think we've, I'm almost out of breath talking this football because my mind's moving. Talking about fantasy football, brains churning.
Well, have you ever seen just not to keep going on about it, but has there ever been an NFL offseason as far as free agency goes that has been like this? I mean, this has been this past week, and seeing where some of these guys, and we're talking top-notch players in the NFL on the move. I mean, it's exciting. It's exciting to watch. And
well, when we have to just scale it down to our top 5.
Yeah, exactly.
And then on top of that, you look at, I know, like 2 of my top 5 are trades. So
yeah, and I'm mentioning my top 5 though, and I'm leaving names off and not even talking about Landon Collins. I didn't even mention his name, and I mean he's one of the better safeties in the game, and I touched on Earl Thomas there at the end, but really never really talked about him, and C.J. Mosley going to the Jets. I mean, when you have names like that we're not even talking about because we're just breaking it down to our top 5, that's how you know this offseason has been, one for the books.
And it's not over.
Yeah, exactly.
We still have the draft. We still have training camp. We still have all of that. So stay tuned. This is not going to be our last football talk, I promise. So moving on from that, Kyle, my God. My God. And I know you're like, Turbo, oh my God, too much basketball talk. Well, fuck you. It's the biggest thing going on right
Yeah.
now. I mean, we are, and you know what's really sad is Kyle and I are two of the biggest baseball fans ever, and we've done baseball a fraction of the time.
Mm-hmm.
We're borderline for the season starting.
Yeah.
And there's no baseball in our whole our whole show notes today. So it's hard. It's hard. We have to make sacrifices. So 2K Crew Selection Sundays tomorrow. Then the real shit gets popping. But up until then, man, these conference tournaments have been crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy. And just to highlight some of the upsets so far. I mean, and this is, you know, a lot of people ask me, oh, well, Turbo, you know, what do you think about Golden State doing this? Well, I give two shits because college basketball to me is way more exciting to watch. And it's point proven with, I mean, to me, the whole ball got rolling on Wednesday when Gonzaga goes down to St. Mary's. And piggyback that last night, Virginia goes down to Florida State. Purdue gets beat again by Minnesota. And I know we're teasing you. Hang on. We're going to get to it. We're going to get to it. But I think you and I can both agree that the Zags going down pretty much took their number one seed right off the table.
Absolutely. And I mean, and I'm willing to argue with, what about their 2 seed? I mean, with their strength of schedule and what they play against in that conference all year round, I'm sorry, but if you can't pull that off and win that conference tournament,
yeah,
your resume doesn't line up to a lot of other teams in the field here.
And I want to say that I overheard, it was either this morning or last night, that they had only played one top 25 team. To me, that's crazy.
And they won it.
Yeah.
And it was Duke.
Yeah. But still, to me, it's like, all right, you know, and especially as long as Gonzaga's been relevant in this conversation. I know the conference, you have to play your conference schedule. I get that. However, all of these Maui Invitationals, everything at the beginning of the season to line up your non-conference schedule, that's where you can pick and choose. Mm-hmm. And with these inaugural tournament or these preseason tournaments, it's by invitation. So when you have a resume like Gonzaga's, I'm sure they would take them. There's no doubt in my mind that that would even be a question. The one thing that, like I said, the one thing that I question is you're kind of doing your preseason, or not preseason, but your pre-conference schedule kind of like in Alabama football, where you're pretty much just scheduling cupcakes and seeing how you can blow them up. To me, if Gonzaga to me is going to be a top contender year in and year out, and I'm not going to say get that blue blood, quote unquote blue blood, appeal to them. They need to either switch conferences, which I know is a bigger feat than it is to just talk about it. But the one thing you can control is your non-conference schedule. And if they're not going to do that, then to me, I'm right there with you. They don't deserve it. Now, and you and I kind of touched on this last week, is that do these top teams need to win their conference tournament? And for me, Virginia going down to Florida State, that wasn't a huge upset. Florida State is a man's team, and Virginia just had an off night shooting. They shut down Guy. And so to me, Virginia is still a number one.
Absolutely, I agree.
More or less, to me, the conference tournaments are to solidify, and you get the teams that come out of nowhere that bump up. I shouldn't say come out of nowhere, but teams would be, let's say, an 8 seed. They win their conference tournament, and all of a sudden now they're ranked up as like a 4 seed or something like that. To me, that's kind of where a lot of this goes. But, and you could argue with Gonzaga. they were, in my opinion, an iffy number 1 seed, and now that no,
not a chance. And you talk about these conference tournaments, and I touched on it a little bit last week. For some teams, I don't think it really matters. I think Virginia did enough throughout the regular season to basically lock up a 1 seed in this. Their only 2 losses all year long were to Duke. Both times Duke had Zion.
Yep.
So to me, that was enough right there. Because with Zion, I think both of us would agree. Duke with Zion is you're talking about probably the best team in college basketball.
And I think let's take and parlay that into last night's game.
Yes. Where they took down the hottest team. North Carolina has been the hottest team in college basketball.
That was a fucking game. Mm-hmm. That was a fucking game. And if you didn't catch the score, Duke 74, UNC 73. And that wasn't even the conference title game. The winner of that game plays Florida State. So we had that in a semifinal game that ultimately, in my mind, granted, I haven't watched every NCAA game so far this year, but that was the best game I've seen so far this year.
Yeah.
That was, you could not look away, because the minute you did, one team would go on a 5-point run. Like, oh shit, here we go. Nope. The other team would come back with a 10-point run, so now they're 5 points up. And it was just 2 heavyweights just knocking the shit out of each other. And getting to the Zion Williamson point, fuck. First game back goes 13 for 13. And I actually put on my Facebook after that first steal and dunk, Zion looks like he's back to me.
Yeah. and never missed a beat.
No. And to kind of give you an idea, and this show isn't a lot about just reading off stats and doing shit off stats, but when it is important, I think we will point it out. Duke scored 74 points last night. Zion had 31. And you ask yourself, all right, well, what did the other 2 studs do? What did RJ Barrett do? What did Cam Reddish do? Barrett had 15, Reddish had 6. So, yes, if Zion wouldn't have played, it would have been a repeat of the first 2 games. And I think the one takeaway that I want to drive home is Zion's Zion. I mean, we could sit here and do a whole 2-hour show just on him. But the one thing that I want to drive home is there are other players, and Cameron Johnson for UNC is quietly having a Player of the Year season. However, with the Duke kids as being vastly overshadowed, and it's kind of odd that a UNC player would be vastly overshadowed by anybody, but he is, especially with that core group that Coach K has there. And everyone's talking about, Duke's lockdown defense. That wasn't there. The defense, Zion's offensive numbers are great. His rebounding numbers are great. But as far as the defense that he's playing, I don't think that I don't see a difference with him on the court. I really don't. And and that's, to me, that was one of the things where I think a lot of people were kind of hanging their hat on, is that he's a difference maker defensively. And I over the guy that was playing in his place, probably, absolutely.
And he does. I mean, he picks up a lot of he does lead the nation in steals, so he picks up a lot of steals and everything like that. But as far as just straight defense, just having Zion on the floor is it's a whole different Duke team. When they didn't have that Zion to just take over games and with big plays, exactly, they look lost.
That team feeds off his energy, feeds off his momentum.
Absolutely.
And I will give it to him. I have never seen someone his size jump, land, and then jump again as high and as quick as he does.
He's a freak. He's a freak.
I've never seen that before. So,
and we sit here and we talk about Duke all night. We talk about Zion and everything. And the way that this has gone since we started doing this podcast, Duke will probably go out and get beat tonight because every time that we talk about a college team in basketball, they go out and lay an egg. So I mean, and that's just the way that this college season has been. Like,
yep. And you lead me right into my next point is that everyone is looking forward to this Florida State Duke matchup to see how Zion does against the Florida State bigs. Mm-hmm. And I think it would have been I still think Duke would have beat Syracuse. However, Syracuse, their depth was garbage. Mm-hmm. I mean, their two big men had 2 fouls, I think, in the first 5 minutes of the game the other day. And that's when Zion just kind of took over. So that's the key point I'm looking for tonight is to see. Do I think Duke's going to win? Yes, I do.
I agree.
But I'm more interested to see how defensively, in particular, how he handles someone that's, because he's what, 6'6"? Mm-hmm. To see how he handles multiple guys that are almost 7 foot tall. Mm-hmm. And I'm not so much worried about him offensively because he's quicker and faster. He's got faster feet. And he can probably outjump those big trees in the middle. So that part really doesn't concern me. It's just I want to see how he matches up defensively with these guys. And to kind of wrap up the NCAA talk, I don't think it's a big surprise that the Big Ten is coming down to Michigan State again.
No, I think that's probably who it should come down to. Yeah. And those are the two. I said it about a month ago. Those are the 2 teams that I think are the best. I think there's more riding on this for Michigan State than there is for Michigan.
Oh yeah,
because I think if Michigan State goes out and beats Michigan for the 3rd time, you cannot argue with me that they're not a number 1 seed in the tournament.
Yes,
they have done more than enough. I would almost go out and say if Michigan State loses tomorrow to Michigan, that they still need to be considered as a number 1 seed. Yeah. And I'm not a Michigan State guy at all, and you know that, but they've done enough this year, and they've battled through adversity, and they've dealt with injuries more than anybody.
A lot.
And to be where they're at, and to beat Michigan twice already to this point, beat Michigan on their home floor, they've done more than enough, in my opinion, to be a number 1 seed in this field. And I mean, you can't take those 2 wins on Michigan right now that they already have. You can't take away from Michigan's resume that they built this season. I mean, Michigan knocked out North Carolina, and I get it. It was the beginning of the season. It was before the conference play started, and teams get better as the year go on. But they demolished North Carolina. They demolished Villanova. Mm-hmm. Michigan's resume, you can put that up with about any college team there is.
Yes.
Now, did Michigan fall off in the middle of the season in Big Ten play? Yes, they lost games that they had no business losing.
No, and that was the thing that's the big knock I've had on Michigan all year is they lost games that they shouldn't.
Yeah, you cannot go back and look at that Penn State loss.
And with something like that, I don't even care where the game's played.
Yeah. You have to beat those teams.
You're a better team that has better athletes.
Yes, absolutely.
And now, if you're asking me, you're like, all right, Turb, who you taking? And I'm completely unbiased. I don't have a horse in the race. If I had to choose, I would say that, and it's kind of a toss up because Michigan's road to get here, the stress of their games has been a lot less than Michigan State's coming to this point. So you can take that one of 2 ways. Either Michigan hasn't been tested in this tournament and Michigan State has, or Michigan State is about out of gas and Michigan isn't. And with that being said, I think I got to go with Michigan on this one.
Yeah, and you just brought up a good point. You think about Michigan State being out of gas. You can see it just in watching Cassius Winston, who we touched on last week. He deserves to be the player of the year in the Big Ten.
Well-deserved Big Ten player of the year.
He deserves to be considered in the top 3 or 4 players in player of the year when it all comes down to it. But watching him, he's slow. He's slower than what he was 2 weeks ago. He's tired. I think there's some injuries there that nobody knows about.
Well, I mean, how it especially a player for what he's doing and picking up of a lot of shit.
Yes.
A lot of loose ends.
Talking about two of the best players on Michigan State have been gone for the last month of basketball. So yeah, you've had to ask Winston to do a lot more than what he than what he bargained for. So I think at this time of the season, he's tired. He could benefit from some time off,
especially playing back to back in a tournament. Yeah, that's.
And I think Michigan, these last two games, and now I understand Minnesota, who they're not. It's not like Minnesota's a top end team, and Michigan just flat out demolished them today.
For whatever reason, they had Purdue's number.
Yeah. And then
that's pretty much the tall and skinny of it.
But like last night's win, Michigan over Iowa.
Mm-hmm.
Iowa.
I thought that was going to be more. I thought that was going to be more of a game.
Yeah, they slapped Michigan around when they played against each other this season, and just completely beat the piss out of them.
Yeah. So
for Michigan to go out and win the game like they did last night, and then come back today and win another game by about 30 points.
Yeah.
They're starting to, and that's kind of been that Beeline way. Michigan, they kind of peak at the right time, and that's kind of been the way that Beeline's done some things. So me being a Michigan fan, I'm like, all right, let's carry on this momentum. Let's beat Michigan State tomorrow. Let's take this into the tournament. So I mean, when it comes to seeding teams for the big dance, I think there's a lot more riding on Michigan State tomorrow, because I think if they win, they solidify that number 1 seed.
But with a Michigan win, they could solidify a 2 seed.
Yes, yeah, and if Michigan loses tomorrow against Michigan State, I think in my opinion, they should still be a 2 seed just because of their resume. I think what's going to happen is they're going to slide to a 3 if they lose. If they win, they're going to be a 2. But it's just as much as important for Michigan tomorrow as it is for Michigan State, though, because you wanna. They kind of fell off there towards the end of the season a little bit and played some games where it was like, man, this is not the same Michigan team that we watched.
Both games against Michigan State.
Yes. And so if you can beat Michigan State tomorrow, and you can go into the tournament saying, hey, we're coming off a Big Ten tournament win, beating Michigan State, going into this tournament, you can ride that momentum.
Oh yeah, that momentum is key.
Yeah,
that momentum is key.
And that's what it's all about this time of the year. I was just talking there a night ago about North Carolina being, in my opinion, they were the hottest team in basketball this last month or so. Well, last night they got taken down by Duke. It's who can get that momentum and win a conference tournament and take that into the tournament and keep on winning. And I mean,
that's kind of another thing too. Going back to the Florida State Duke game, is you had 2 heavyweights exchanging blows last night, and if you would have, if there's a couple days in between games where guys can rest up, and to me it's a whole different story. But when you're going back to back in a tournament, I have a feeling we're going to see. And now, mind you, if Duke jumps out to a big lead, we're not going to see Zion a lot.
No.
That coming down the wire last night, I can't remember if he shot or was like dished and was backpedaling. He grabbed his right lower back. So, and that's something to keep an eye on, and that's something I'm going to keep an eye on. But like I said, if Coach K is doing shit the way he should, be like, boys, let's get out to a big lead. Let me get you guys some rest. If I need to bring you back in, that's fine. But let's just bury these guys real quick, so that, they're, granted, I'm sure both those coaches want to win the ACC tournament. I guarantee it. But there's, especially for Duke, there's a lot bigger shit riding on the table, and it's all directly on the back of Zion Williamson.
Yeah, and I mean, like, and then going back to the Michigan and Michigan State game, and tomorrow I'm with you. I'm giving Michigan a little bit of the nod there. Now I think Michigan State's proven this year they're the better team. They won twice. They won on Michigan's floor. The only reason why I'm saying I'm maybe giving Michigan the nod tomorrow is looking at this conference tournament, and you're playing consecutive games, with no rest at all.
Yeah.
Michigan's won 2 pretty easy games where you could have, there could be 9 minutes left in the game, and you got some of your starters on the bench because you're up by 30 points.
Yep.
To where Michigan State's had to grind out their 2 games. Michigan State's has had a tougher run.
Yeah.
Purdue getting taken down by Minnesota last night kind of opened it up to where Michigan kind of had a. I don't like to say cakewalk because there's no cakewalk in the Big Ten, but
they had an easier opponent.
Yes, absolutely. And Michigan State has had to grind out their 2 games to where leading into tomorrow, you got some guys that are tired,
banged up.
Yeah, I mean, not even in the in the NCAA tournament, you're not playing 3-4 consecutive games in a day, and like you are in the conference tournament where for these Michigan and Michigan State both had a bye, but you're still playing 3 consecutive games in 3 days. That's not easy to come by.
No, and let's put a bow on this conference tournament talk, because if you guys do not follow the Facebook page, please go ahead and do facebook.com/turbo2ks. I posted on there that we are hosting an ESPN tournament challenge. So go ahead, get on there, search. The name of the group is Turbo, the word and 2Ks. And the password is Turbo Wins, all lowercase. And yes, I'm putting it out there. Come swing your dick in this circle, or tits, whichever, and see if you can take me down. I mean, I love the competition. I love the shit talk, and I'm going to invite it, and I want it. And we do have some entries. Of course, myself, Mr. Jeremy Warren. Shout out to you, brother. We have a Sammy J with a whole bunch of fucking numbers after it, and a Down syndrome. So all those in there, thank you for signing up, and I do want to encourage everyone. And if you are having problems, go ahead and hit me up on Facebook, and I will shoot you the link, or I'll just add you myself. So yes, with that being said, come get some. I'm going to win, and I say this with the utmost confidence, even though I have no idea what the fuck's going to happen. So I think one of the things that we'll do, and as you may notice, Mr. 2Ks was not on that list, so we're going to have to change that. But one thing we will do for you guys is we will have a bracket challenge between him and I for bragging rights, and see how that happens. Oh, I almost forgot. With the tournament challenge, you are allowed, I think, to put in it, I think, up to 3 brackets. So that always makes it kind of fun. It's not, and it doesn't cost you a dime. We're not asking, there's no entry fee in this. This is just for shits and giggles and shit talk. So, and I will give updates. We'll give shout outs. So get in there and get on the Facebook page, talk some shit, start some conversation. We love it. One thing we are, in addition to that, is we want to start a Turbo and 2Ks Fantasy Baseball League. And if you guys are interested in that, shoot us an email at turboand2ks@gmail.com. We have about, I think we're doing 10 players.
We could do 12. I mean, if we had the amount of people to sign up, I think we could max out at 12, but 10 would probably be the...
Yeah, 10 is ideal, and I'm going to go out on a limb and say we have 6 spots available. So first come, first serve. This is something where we will throw a little bit of money on the line just to make, because it is more of a long season. So to keep folks fresh, keep folks interested, and the best part of it is Christian's going to play. So if you win, it's the easiest fucking money in the world, because all he's going to do is draft White Sox players. Yeah. So he might have 2 good players on his team. So kind of keep that in mind as well. And like I said, keep the Facebook group popping. We did have a lot of likes, a lot of shares, but not a lot of comments this week, which is fine. Any activity is great. But the biggest news of the week is I did, through our podcasting host, actually connect our YouTube page to this. So there's not a single fucking reason why you cannot listen to us be completely retarded. We have iTunes, we have Spotify, we have Stitcher, we have Google Play. Now we have YouTube. So if you're one of those guys or gals that likes to, and now granted, it's just the audio. It's just the audio for now, but it's one other option for you folks to get in on the action per se. And with that too, with all of these platforms, you can subscribe, you can comment, and the more feedback, the better, guys, because we're going to do this regardless, but we want to bring you in. We want, because it's going to get kind of stale. It's going to get kind of dry without your guys' input. So hit us up.
And I mean, this is something that we just started out of a limb. I mean, we're willing. I think both of us are willing to take any advice that we can get.
Any advice, shit talk.
Yes, absolutely. Like, I want to hear it all. Yeah,
bring it on. Bring it on. Do not be shy, because we have some pretty thick skin. I've worked in sales for the vast majority of my life, so I've heard it all. So with that being said, we're a little bit past that 1 hour mark. Mr. 2Ks, is there anything else you want to bring up?
No.
All right, man. All right. Well, step one, we need to get you on the tournament challenge so that we can talk shit back and forth. And yeah, we are going to do the individual brackets. We will take pictures of them and post them somewhere. I haven't decided yet. Just for bragging, right? Shits and giggles. Hell, you never know. We might put a bar tab on it for each other. So keep on up with everything. And one of the reasons why we kind of, before we sign off here, I kind of want to give the explanation of why we went the YouTube route. And because there are some people like, oh my God, it's a podcast. You don't need video. We just want to listen to you, which, you're missing out, because 2Ks and I are two handsome motherfuckers.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah. But once we do get video, hide your women, hide your girlfriends, close their eyes. And if they do see us, wash their eyes, because you're going to be done. You're going to be done. I'm sorry. But go 2K crew, do me a favor. Go on YouTube. Look, just search Turbo and 2Ks. Give us a sub. Watch a couple of the, even if you've already listened, quote unquote watch, even though you're just getting the audio, because we need so many views in order to do live streaming on there. And one of our plans is to do the weekly podcast like we are now, but also do a live stream once a week. And so that way we can invite all the 2K crew, come on into YouTube. You guys can chat with us. You can send questions, shoot the shit directly, and it's live. It's off the cuff. And, well, not that I'll be the first to admit there is zero cuts in all of this podcast. So what you hear is what you get. I think the first episode is the only one where we ever had to start it over again. So I think we're getting kind of good at that. But let's do the live stream thing, but we can't do it without your guys' help. So go give us some views. Once we get the views up, then we can go live, and then shit's gonna get real. And it's just one more way we can kind of interact with you guys and get your input, talk some shit, throw everything down. And with that being said, I'm Turbo. This is 2Ks. We're out, and Jim Rome, we're coming for you.